Hey, eighth graders, this is the 2024 first test video for your practice test. As a reminder, when I make these videos, if hopefully you watch them, or hopefully somebody watches them, but I go really fast because you can stop and fast forward and slow me down or whatever. So sorry if I'm talking a little fast or whatever, but I don't want the video to be 48 minutes long. Nobody's going to watch it. All right, so the first 6 questions on your practice test are all about just combining integers. You have one like -9 plus 5. If you remember, you're just, instead of adding and subtracting, I like to think of good guys, bad guys, combining. 9 bad guys, 5 good guys, bad guys win by 4. -4 is the answer, all right? Sometimes you'll have something like that. Think of the sign as being with the number. Don't think of it as -7, think combining. They're not multiplying because they're not swished together. So it's 4 bad guys, 7 bad guys, all in a bar or wherever they are. That's 11 bad guys. They don't fight and kill each other because they're on the same team. So that's just 11 bad guys. All right. When we have more than one sign like this, sometimes there's a parentheses, sometimes there's not. Okay, but as long as this is not up against there, that's multiplying when the number touches up against the parentheses. But when it's not, that's combining. So we start off -3, and I always say more than one sign is kind of silly, it's kind of dumb, all right? Minus negative, take away bad, that's good. So think of it as a good 9. I took away something bad. 3 bad guys, 9 good guys, that's when they fight. Who's gonna win? The good guys by 6, okay? And then we got one like this. If you have a whole bunch of combining, let's see, -1 plus 6 minus 4 plus 5 minus 7 minus 2. I don't have any double signs on this, but one thing that's easier than trying to go through and get that answer and that answer and that answer and that answer, you're just combining good guys and bad guys. So we can put all of our bad guys together. 1 bad guy and 4 bad guys, that's 5 so far. And 7 bad guys, that's 12 so far. And 2 bad guys, that's 14 negatives, 14 bad guys so far. And then there's 11 good guys, so the bad guys are gonna win by 3. Okay? And then we have one like this. 4 plus -5 plus -3 minus -1. Without the parentheses, doesn't matter whether there is or isn't. If it's like that, it's still not up against the 3, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, sorry, I'm making a mess. Plus 5. My suggestion is change any double signs into single signs. 4 good guys, they are at the beginning. Plus negative, that's bad. Plus negative, that's bad. Minus negative, that's good. Plus 5. I'm going to take all my good guys, 4 good guys, 5, 10 good guys, 5 bad guys and 3 bad guys, that's 8 bad guys, that's 2 good guys. All right, those are the first 6, okay? All just combining integers. Then we're multiplying. The rule is when you multiply, a negative times a negative equals a positive. See how the 3 is pushed up against the 8? It's not -3 minus 8, it's -3 times -8. Okay? And then I have one like this, -2 times -3 times 5. That is a negative times a negative. That's positive, so negative 2 times negative 3 is 6, times 5 is 30. Now, I might flip it up on you. Maybe if I gave you a different one. A negative times a negative is positive 4, and that answer times negative 4, a positive times a negative is negative, okay? If there's one of each, the answer is negative when you're multiplying. If there's two of the same, the answer is positive when you're multiplying, okay? I'm gonna talk about this now because what happens, even though it comes up later in the test, if I have 3 times 2, you know what, that's okay. 3 times 2 times, I don't know, negative 4. 3 times 2 is 6 times negative 4 equals 24. But later you're going to have something like 3 times, this is kind of dumb, but that's okay. That's a distributive property. That's outside. There's two separate things. These two are not multiplying, they're combining. The distributive property says that this guy wants to multiply with that and with that. So we go 6 minus 12, and then the answer is negative 6. Where everybody gets confused is between these two things. This is not the distributive property. This is not this guy times this guy times this guy. This is all multiplied together. This times this, whatever the answer is, times this. Okay? Don't mix up this and this. Really, really important. Okay, sorry. Let me get back to the practice test. So let's see, number 9. The next set of problems on a practice test is combining like terms. Okay, so we'll have something like 7x plus 3 minus 4x. 7 x's plus 3 what? Officially it's 3 ones. I like to say 3 regular number people minus 4 x's. The name is x's, okay? 7 what? 7 x's. Minus 4 what? 4 x's. 7 apples minus 4 apples is 3 apples. 7 x's minus 4 x's is 3 x's. Plus the 3 ones. Ones are different than x's. When you combine, you have to combine things that are alike, okay? So you just leave it like that, okay? The next one is negative 3x minus 5 plus 9x minus 5. I have x people, 3 bad ones, 9 good ones. Good ones win, 6 x people. Again, you're going to get confused, but don't. I'm not multiplying them. If I multiply an x times an x, I get an x squared. They are not being multiplied. They're not smushed together. It doesn't look like that, okay? So you're combining. And then I got 5 bad guys, and 5 bad guys is 10 bad guys, okay? All right, next, more complicated, same thing, just more complicated. 5x squared y minus 3x minus 5x squared y plus 4x plus 3x. 5 is how many, whatever comes after it is who they are. The coefficient and the variable term, the variable expression. These are x squared y people. So you have to find other x squared y people for them to combine with. There they are. 5 good ones, 5 bad ones. They're going to eliminate each other. None of them, okay? It's cute. Sometimes you put this. It's not wrong, but if you don't have any, then you really just don't have them, all right? And I have X people. 3 bad ones, 3 good ones. They're gonna kill each other. So I'm just left with 4X. Or I could have said 7 X's and 3 bad X's is 4 X's, okay? Next, we have, I know I'm going so fast. All right, -9 minus positive 3x. That's silly. Minus 5x squared plus 5xy. Okay. So these are 9 bad ones. These are 3, I'm just gonna change this. Bad minus positive is bad. Minus 5x squared plus 5xy. Okay. These are x people. These are x squared people. These are xy people. None of them are the same. They can't be combined. Nothing combines. You just leave that as your answer. You could have just left the problem. All right? Good. Then we have multiplying variable expressions. Okay, so we have something like -3x times 4x. Okay, see how the x is pushed up against parentheses? That's showing multiplication. All right, we have a negative. Let me remind you guys, 1 times 2 times 3 is the same as 2 times 1 times 3, right? When you're just multiplying, only multiplying, the order doesn't matter, okay? So I've got -3 times x times 4 times x. I could do -3 times 4 is -12 times x. When you do x times x, it's x squared. See, if I'm adding x's and x's, I just have x's. But when I'm multiplying x times x's, I have x amount of x's. I have x squareds. Okay. Woo! All right. Told you I'm going to go fast. All right. The next one is 3x times 3y times -3x. 3 times 3 is 9 times -3 is -27. X times x, x squared. Are we allowed to multiply y people with x people? Yes, you can multiply anybody, so times y, okay? You can't combine. You can't do 3x plus 3y or plus any amount of y, it doesn't matter. They're not the same people. You can't combine them. But you can smush them together if you're being asked to multiply them. That's 3xy up here. All right, anyway, cool. The next one shows the distributive property, all right? 5 times 8x plus 2. Okay, so with that, the 5 is pushed up against the parentheses. That shows multiplication, but he wants to multiply with both of the terms inside the parentheses, okay? So 5 times 8x is 40x. 5 times 2 is positive 10. These are x guys, these are regular number guys. Don't put them together, that's your final answer. Remember, that's different than this. Don't mix these two up. This is 40x times 2 be 80x. It is not 5 times 8x and then 5 times 2. It's all smushy together. That times that times that. But this is, I'm going to multiply with you, and then I'm going to multiply with you. Okay? Make sure you know the difference. The most common mistake people make on this thing. All right. The next one's hard. -x times x. It's not really hard. -4x squared times 3y. I like to think if a variable expression or a variable doesn't have a coefficient, think of there being a 1 there. Think of there being a 1 there. Okay? Now it gets easy. It's all multiplying, so it doesn't matter what order we go in. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1 times negative 4 is positive 4 times 3 is positive 12. And then I got x times x times x times x. That's x to the 4th, right? X, 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 x. And then I'm allowed to times by y because you can always multiply. That's the answer. Be careful on those. Okay. The next set of questions is about order of operations. Okay, starts off with a simple one. It's like number 17. It's negative 7 minus 4 times 2. Okay, the question is, here's a negative 7. Are we going to combine first? PEMDAS, also PEMP, same thing, all right. Are we going to do our combining first, or are we going to do our multiplying first? We're going to multiply before we combine, right? Adding and subtracting is combining. So this negative 7 is not multiplying. It's loose, it's out there, so it has to wait for them to do their multiplying. Think of it as a bad 4 times 2, that's a bad 8. Now we can combine, we're down to the last level. Combining, adding, subtracting, we get negative 15. Okay? Then, we've got, this is question 18 on your thing, 5 minus 3 times the quantity, x plus 3, plus 6, x plus 4. Okay. Combiner, multiplier, distributive, combiner, combiner. 5 has to wait. Negative 3 times x, negative 3x, negative 3 times positive 3, negative 9. This guy has to wait. We're just going to bring him down. Now we have all combining, nothing but combining. That's easy. We just combine like terms. X people with X people. 6 good ones, 3 bad ones. That's 3 good X's. And then we have regular number people, or ones. 5 good ones, 4 good ones. That's 9 good ones, 9 bad ones. They're going to cancel each other. 9 and negative 9 is nothing. It's adorable when you put plus 0. You don't need to, because plus 0 means like you don't have anything. But I wouldn't count it wrong. All right. Let's see. The next one, 5x plus 4x times the quantity 2x minus 3 minus 9x minus 4 x squared. Okay, combiner person, loose. Multiplier person, multiply with you, 8x squared, multiply with you, negative 12x. Combiner person, loose, not snuggled, negative 9x, negative 4x squared. And then again, we get down to our last level, which is just combining. That's really easy. X squared people with X squared people, 8 good ones, 4 bad ones, 4x squared. X people, ooh, that's 21 bad ones and 5 good ones. That's 16 bad ones of those X people. All right? That is that. I do have one question about, it says, which one comes out to negative 25? Is it this or is it that? Okay. Order of operations, exponents come before multiplying. Making something negative is the same as multiplying by negative 1. So if this 5 is here, it gets squared first, exponent first. 5 squared is 25. Then we slap the negative on because it's like multiplying by negative 1. So this one is negative 25. This one is a negative 5. He's already negative, and that negative 5 is wrapped up in a parentheses. He is negative 5, and he's timesing by himself. So it's negative 5 times negative 5, which is positive 25. Again, I could ask it backwards. I could ask which ones, and I might not use 5. Okay. Whew. Trying to go fast. All right. The next one. Just like there's distributive property for multiplication, there's distributive property for division. So we have, because multiplication and division have all the same rules, okay? Just like 3 times, that's a terrible X. That's 3 times X, 3 times X, 3 times 2, okay? The 3 is doing the multiplying. Here it's a 5 that's doing the dividing. 5 into 20x is 4x. 5 into 15 is positive 3. Put a sign. If it's not at the beginning, you got to put a sign on it. There we go. That's distributive for division. We have factoring. I call it slurping. 18x squared. X cubed y squared minus 24 x squared y a b c. And we have to factor, like undo the distributive property, like reverse distributive. So we have to like say something times something, and then something times something came out to this. And we want to completely factor. So we want to pull out the biggest amount of stuff that can come out of this term and this term. Well, the biggest number that goes into that is 6. 6 goes into 18 and also into 24. The biggest amount of x's that go into both is x squared. The biggest amount of y's that go into both, y squared goes in there, but only y there. So y is the biggest amount of y's that go into both. And then A and B and C are not common factors, okay? We're looking for things that go into both. So that's the most that goes into both. And then we have to distribute in order to build back the original problem. So to get from 6 to 18, we've got to multiply by 3. To get from x squared to x cubed, we got to multiply by x. To get from y to y squared, we got to multiply by y. Then, to get from 6 to negative 24, we got to multiply by negative 4. To get from x squared to x squared, we don't have to do anything. Say multiply by 1, but it's not going to change anything. Negative 4 times 1 is just negative 4. To get from y to y, same thing. We don't have to build it. And then to get from this to this, we got to multiply by a, b, c. Okay? That's that one. All right? And I am not going to go through the finding your grade problem. But we'll go over it in class. And then the PACE class, if you're not in PACE, the last couple you don't have to worry about. I'm just checking something here. Okay. The last couple on, if you're not in PACE, you don't have to worry about. But PACE class, you get stuff like this. I'm just going to do let's do number, it's 23. It's negative x squared y plus 3x plus 2x squared y minus xy minus 3x, and I'm going to give you values for x and y, and I'm going to be nice. I'm not going to change those values. I'll make it x is negative 2 and y is 3. These don't have coefficients. I'm going to put coefficients on these, okay? And then I'm going to combine like terms. I've got a bad 1x squared y and a good 2x squared y, so I've got 1x squared y. I've got 3 bad x's and 3 bad x's, they're going to kill each other. And then I've got a minus 1xy. And then I just plug in. Negative 2 squared is negative 2 times negative 2. It's not this. That's not negative 2 squared. That's 2 squared slash negative afterwards. Negative 2, if x is being squared, it's negative 2 times negative 2, which is 4 times 3 times 1, 12. And then we have negative 2 times 3 is negative 6 times negative 1 is positive 6. Think of it like this, okay? Negative 6. Remember, sign is with the number. Think of it as times negative 1. So negative 1 times negative 6 is positive 6. We get a sign in there. We get 18, okay? I'll go ahead and do the last one because there'll be like a variable. You got ax squared minus ax cubed minus axy. Okay. I'm going to put 1s on these guys. Okay. It's still going to be x equals negative 2 and y equals 3. Okay. So, negative 2 times negative 2 is 4, times a is 4a, times 1 is 4a. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4, times negative 2 again is negative 8, times a is negative 8a, times negative 1 is positive 8a. And then here, I'm going to cover the negative 1. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6, times negative 1 is positive 6. Now I can combine 12a plus 6. Whew, that was a long review video. Hopefully you guys get something out of that.